Good morning, gardeners. Happy Sunday morning. So I'm going along with my challenge of just letting the camera go, not pressing stop, and just recording. So this corner of the garden, this is part of my sidewalk garden. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that there used to be two really big, medium-sized Bradford pear trees over here. And I had those cut down back in 2020. So I had those two trees removed, and I decided instead of planting more trees in this area, this would be a great opportunity for a really large garden bed. So that's what I did here. I gradually added shrubs and perennials and filled in the spaces. And this was created using the sheet mulching technique. I am a huge fan of sheet mulching areas in my garden to eliminate grass and weeds. And I am so happy how this area has turned out. So I'll walk you through and tell you which plants are in this bed. And I hope you enjoy this morning tour. So we'll start here. This arborvitae is a Western arborvitae that I found on clearance a long time ago, and she has grown up quite big. This is a yellow barberry, and I've had two or three in my garden. This is the only one that remains. I love the color on these, but I don't like how prickly they are. So that one has remained because it's the only one that wants to be in the garden. I have three boxwoods that I have considered moving for a long time. You can see that one is stuck up under the hibiscus bush. This is a Bobo hydrangea. I mentioned in my last video that I am not a fan of the Bobo hydrangea, so this will probably move to a more shady, hey neighbor. This will move to a shadier part of my garden because it just could not stand the sun. This is my head over heels adore hibiscus, and most of its blooms are spent, but we have a second round coming through. And what I love about this hibiscus is if you keep it cleaned up, you remove these old flower heads, you'll encourage new growth. You can see those are new buds coming through. This is a Grace and Grit bicolor rose, and it's pretty, but it really just doesn't perform well in my garden. I don't have many roses in my garden other than knockout roses, and really my roses are for feeding Japanese beetles, so I am not a big rose gardener. This is a limelight hydrangea, and below it I have ornamental grass. This is the Hamlin ornamental grass. Black-eyed Susans. I love them in my garden. I know a lot of people, they can't take how aggressive they are, but look at what they do. They fill in all the spaces, all the empty spaces. And I think that's wonderful. That is just a clear example of what nature will do. So this plant with the bluish gray leaves on it is a feijoa, or pineapple guava. This is the fourth year for it in my garden. It fruited last year, which is exciting. In the fall, it will drop these little round fruits, and they are super sweet. They almost taste like cotton candy. So I was very excited when this one finally fruited. So we'll continue to walk down. You'll see that I have some lilies tucked in that are done. Zinnias. I have lots of these riding spiders. Oh, this doesn't belong here. But right behind this limelight hydrangea is a loquat tree. And guys, my loquat tree has been hanging on. It has been scratched up by some animal. It has been blown in the wind each year, and it is still standing up tall. So I am happy about my loquat tree. I hope to get fruit on it one year. But I am really loving this patch of limelight hydrangeas. There are 2 plants in this area, and I love the progression of this area, or the transitions that happen in this area. Before these hydrangeas get really big, there are lots of other things growing under this. Lots of perennials that are spring blooming perennials. So once the hydrangeas get going, those perennials below are pretty much done. So having these on top give me more color, more bloom power, even after those fall bulbs are spent. And this is just a great introduction to the backyard. So seeing this and then walking into the backyard is just a lovely treat. Now guys, one thing I always talk about is keeping it real in the garden. So my garden is a working garden. I am always back here working. So I leave my tools out sometimes. I leave the wagons out, the wheelbarrows, and all of that. So you'll see that, and that's okay. This is a chocolate mimosa tree. And I purchased this maybe 4 years ago as well. There was a little twig. I was so excited to get it because when I originally saw this tree, it was too expensive for me. But when I went back to a local nursery and saw that it was marked down, I grabbed it. So I bought it for $40. It was just a twig. But now she is beautiful. And I make sure to limb this up from the bottom up. You'll see down here, it's a single stalk. And so I just encourage that to grow towards the backyard, because eventually I'd like to see a canopy of sorts of this chocolate mimosa tree, just branching out this way and this way. Oh, I love that site right there. That's gorgeous. And under the chocolate mimosa tree, I have some zinnias growing, some that I seeded and some that I propagated. So I mentioned this on my Instagram just yesterday, that I took cuttings of a zinnia that had fallen to the ground and I stuck them into the ground, and they are growing. They are doing just fine. And then I also took some cuttings and put them into a glass vase full of water, and they produced beautiful roots. And I planted those as well. This is a little zebra miscanthus. I believe it's a miscanthus. So this one's doing really well. I see some flower heads, seed heads popping up right there. Right behind it is a pennisetum ornamental grass. And I think that is Princess Caroline. But I love that dark colored foliage on that pennisetum. And one thing that I keep in mind when adding new plants to a space is I think about what is the current color scheme of this garden. So this corner is full of burgundies, greens, a little pink, a little purple. So I try to stick with that as I add plants to the garden. And so along this side, I have a couple of hydrangeas growing. There's a castor bean plant growing right in there. So not too bad, guys. My time has reached 9 minutes and 54 seconds by my phone. And I appreciate you guys sticking around to see this quick tour.